All right. Well, welcome again. Thank you so much for being here on your Thursday afternoon or morning or wherever you are. This is Apollo's Nonprofit Bites and Insights. These are our free webinar series that we have tailored specifically for nonprofit professionals. Today, we have a hot topic. We are focusing on how to use AI to create more content in less time. We have the lovely Faggy Gilder back with us. She was with us last month around Google Ads, and she has generously returned to talk about AI in marketing. So before I turn it over to her, a few housekeeping items. This session is being recorded as with all of our webinars and will be uploaded to our blog as well as our YouTube channel. However, all of you who are attending live, you're going to receive a follow-up email from me. It'll include the direct link to the recording, so you don't need to go searching for it, as well as a slide deck and other resources we might talk about today. Q&A and chat box are available for you to use. I do have a request because there's quite a few of us in the room. If you do have questions, please use the Q&A box to drop in the questions. This will just help us keep us organized with the questions and make sure they don't get lost in the chat. For those of you who are new to Apollo, really quickly, we are a nonprofit. We are based in Charlotte, North Carolina, and basically what we do is help other nonprofits with any of their technology needs and challenges. We do offer a wide range of services to make sure we meet the needs of the nonprofits. I won't go through it today, but if any of that kind of strikes your interest, best way to learn more about us is going to our website at apollo.org. There is a service request form if you are interested in kind of chatting with us more about it, or if there's a service that you know, hey, this sounds great, this is what we need, go ahead and fill out that form and someone will follow up with you. Additionally, if you have not subscribed to our email list, please do. This is the great way to stay updated on our programs and upcoming webinars. That is it for me. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen and turn it over to Faggy.
Hey everyone, I'm so glad you're here. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay, and let me enter full screen mode. Awesome. Can everyone see this okay? It kind of like blocks the chat and stuff. All right, great. So thank you, welcome. Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here. Today we're going to talk about AI and how you can create more content and enhance your productivity and workflows in less time. So a little about me. I've sat in your shoes. I have been in nonprofit marketing and communications for more than 15 years. I've been working in my own business for 3.5, but my whole career comes by way of the nonprofit sector. I have a focus on digital strategies and tools around content creation, marketing operations, and things in that bucket. I am a small team champion. I work with a lot of small teams, about 3 to 25 people, depending on the organization and what they're trying to accomplish with that size team. I love AI, love automation, AI agents, which is a combination of AI and automation. I think the experience level in this room is very varied. And so I might go back and forth between basic and a little more advanced. So please bear with me and feel free to ask any questions. So here's what we'll cover today. We're going to cover some of the goals that you shared with us and your bottlenecks, some AI best practices and how to write a good prompt, 5 practical workflows. I hope we have time for all 5, but I want to leave some time at the end for questions. So there's a chance I'll skip 1 or 2 and for the sake of time, but it'll be in your slides, and some strategies for success before we sign off. So my goal is really for you to reach that aha moment where you're not going to remember every single thing. And I don't want you to do everything the way I do. My goal is to help expose you to all the different ways you could be using these tools and help you reach that moment where you're like, oh my gosh, I have to do that tomorrow. That to me would be success here. So before the webinar, we asked you a few questions, and most of you are using it for a few weekly tasks, have dabbled a little bit, and a minority are using it regularly or have more advanced usage. And the vast majority of you are using ChatGPT. So when I reference a specific tool, it'll probably be ChatGPT, but we're going to keep it pretty tool agnostic because there's a lot of different tools here. What you want from AI is that you really want to speed up drafting. You want to speed up content creation. I know the pain of the content hamster wheel, so I really, really get it. We want to talk more about repurposing your content and making the most of the things you're already creating. You want to translate your data into more stories and how you turn that into narratives. And you really want to solve the big blank page problem, which actually ties nicely into drafting and repurposing content because you'll have less blank pages that way. So you don't have enough time. Your content is buried, your data is disconnected from each other, and you find yourself getting generic AI outputs. And so I hope to address some of these today. And if we don't address it all or don't get to your specific question, please feel free to reach out to me. I am always happy to chat. So, what all of what you've told us tells us is that you need speed, not perfection. Perfection is the enemy of progress. Time is the scarcest resource. And you want things that are concrete and not theoretical. So I'm going to try to only give you enough theory to help you do the practical better. So let's set the stage here. This session is for communicators and marketers, development and fundraisers, program staff at nonprofits who are doing all the things, anyone who thinks I just need more time for my actual work. Many of you are wearing many different hats. This is really about enhancing your capacity. So your work expanded, but your budget didn't. Given this year, it probably shrunk. AI is really, it's so perfect for nonprofits, which is why as soon as AI really came onto the scene, I dove into how we could all use it better. So here's what we will and won't cover, mostly because it's what I'm qualified to cover with you. Practical workflows, prompts, examples, ways to use it with your nonprofit or in your work. The ethics and governance and legal considerations are really different from organization to organization and person to person. And that's not really my role today, so I won't be covering that. And I'm not going to cover how to build buy-in at your organization. It's just too much for one session. Quick tip though is that paid versions of AI let you opt out of training their data models, which means it gives your data an added layer of protection. So when you're using AI for work, I highly recommend you use some sort of paid tool so that you can opt out of letting the model train on your data and give it a little more protection. So let's define some basic terms before we get to the nuts and bolts. Artificial intelligence are systems designed to perform tasks that human intelligence is usually required for. Large language models are the neural networks trained on vast amounts of text-based information for the most part, and it predicts and generates human-like responses. When we talk about AI, we're really talking about LLMs for the most part in casual conversation. So while I'm going to use the word AI, I want to differentiate that LLMs are a type of AI. Context windows. So when you use a tool, I like to recommend you use a primary tool such as ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini. There's a lot of vendors out there who tell you you get access to 20 tools if you sign up. It may work for your needs, but I want to warn you, one of the things they do is shorten the context window. Context window is how long it remembers your conversation history. Sometimes you really need that to get a better result. And so I like to stick with the primary platforms. Transformation tasks are requests focus on repurposing the input you provide rather than creating something brand new. And I recommend transformation over creation most of the time. Here are some more advanced terms for those of you who knew those terms already. Hallucination is when AI makes things up. We really need to be careful in our prompts to make sure in our conversations it doesn't make things up. Temperature is how creative it is, but creativity also leads to more hallucination. So a tool built for research like Perplexity will turn the temperature down on so that it doesn't hallucinate. However, if you're doing creative writing or copywriting then that might not be the best tool for you. So that's why understanding that matters. Few shot learning is a technical term in machine learning that just means you need to give it examples. AI is all about pattern detection, and giving it examples helps, whether in the documentation you upload or in your prompt itself. Red teaming is actively attacking your premise to identify weaknesses. So this is an interesting way to use AI for example, strategy work. Ask it to red team your strategy because AI is good at catching human oversight and error. So I really like understanding that that's something it's really good for. So here, AI in common conversation, as I mentioned before, usually means LLMs, and that's what we'll say today. How to use AI well. So AI models are evolving all the time. I think in a regular chat, you're getting a lot better responses than you did when we started using it a year or two ago. However, for more complex tasks, this is still really good to know. It's all about patterns. AI at its base, I'm not a math expert, but it uses something called an engram where it's guessing the next word and the next word and the next word based on probabilities. So, for example, if you set up a space or if you prime your own bot, uploading documentation really, really helps because it uses that to establish your patterns. Examples, again, for the patterns. Focus on process rather than end products. The biggest mistake I see with AI is people expecting it to spit out a final product. Think of it like your intern. It is not here to spit out your final product. I never copy and paste and send. That is not what it's for. It is here to speed up the middle 80% of your work. And the first 10% your input and the last 10% your output are the critical parts for you. Your expertise is the filter. This is part of why you're still so important and why I'm not worried about AI replacing any of us, aside from the fact we're all doing so many things that I don't think in the nonprofit sector that's a real risk. But your expertise is the filter. So if it's hallucinating, if it's saying something inaccurate, if it's something you disagree with based on your experience, you are the expert, not the machine. And last but not least, you are AI's manager. This is an analogy a lot of people use, but it's more helpful to think of AI as a team. I read a book on understanding LLMs, and the author used this analogy, so I don't want to take the credit for it. But AI is good at a lot of different tasks and don't do it all in one place. So if you have different projects or different chats for different parts of your workflow and consider them different parts of the team, then you'll get really great results. So let's delve into the basics of a good prompt. And I'm going to preface this with my preferred workflow is that I have a bot primed to help me build prompts for more complex tasks. And it's based on this method. So while I want you to understand the method, I'm going to give Aparo the link to that custom GPT so you can use it as well. But in a good prompt, you explain its role. You are a copywriter. You are an expert fundraiser. You are an experienced marketer. You are a market researcher. Giving it its role helps it understand the perch or perspective it's bringing to this conversation. Provide the context. So who are you in this? What do you need from it? So you are an expert fundraiser and I work at this nonprofit and I need you to help me this. Define the task clearly as possible. This can happen in iterative steps over the course of your conversation, which is why the context window is so important. Be specific. Do you want to draft? Do you want to brainstorm? Do you want to rewrite? Do you want to summarize? Do you want to repurpose? What are you using it for? What are your goals? Who's your audience? Really break it down. And a good bot that helps you build prompts will often ask you questions to help you get at this. I like to say a good primed bot helps lift the mental load, including for how to build a good prompt. You want to set constraints, just like with people, constraints breeds creativity. Specify the length. You don't have to say 100 words. You could say short, long, expansive, concise. You could use adjectives like that. The tone, is it friendly? Is it informative? The format. So I have a bot, for example, that helps me generate email subject lines. and that it's primed that I'm going to dump a chat in a conversation, and I want you to give me 5 subject lines and with 5 sets of preview text and explain to me why it works. Specify your output format. So tell it exactly what you want. You want bullets, tables. Tables are awesome. Oh my gosh, try asking it to generate a table. Do you want an email? Do you want code you can copy and paste? And last but not least, I always ask it to explain its reasoning, because not only does it help me to understand it, it also helps it actually generate better results because it forces the model to slow down. So if in ChatGPT you've noticed you could switch into thinking mode, I switch into thinking mode for most things. So here's an example of a med prompt and a better prompt. You won't get a bad result with the med prompt, but you'll get a much better result with the more helpful prompt. Write a fundraising email about our gala. You've given them almost nothing to work with. More helpful is, you're a nonprofit copywriter. I'm a mid-sized food justice organization. You're helping me write a fundraising email about the gala we just had last night. Here's an attached overview, or here's a link to the web page so you have all the salient details. I want this draft to be about 300 words. I want it to be skimmable. I want it to be warm and direct. Speak the way my audience speaks. Include an impact story from the night, one call to action, avoid generic phrases, and then also give me 3 subject lines with the email body. So that's an example of a better prompt. My prompt bot usually spits out prompts much longer than this. You don't necessarily need that. And I want you to see an example of less versus more helpful. AI can give you much more than final drafts. I say this a lot. I want to emphasize it. You want to think beyond spitting out your end result. That's where I see most people get caught by, AI is giving me AI slop. This is useless. Or I had to edit it. This is useless, right? You want to give it everything it needs to do a good job and then expect to spend some time on it after. I really like to use it for brainstorming. So while humans are really great at things machines can't do, machines are good at some things humans are not as good at. Human error. AI will catch things that you missed because you've stared at it so long. It'll catch basic mistakes. It'll catch obvious omissions. It'll look over all your documentation and find things that you weren't able to find because you were up until 11 o'clock at night looking at it. So embrace that it can play that role. I like to use it for brainstorming, examining different angles, iterating the content for different audiences, generating lists of questions, helping me refine my drafts. Given a ton of content, helping me to write the first draft, then I'll go edit that draft and ask it to help me iterate it. Shorten, lengthen, a table. So because in a table you have rows and columns, it'll fill in each square. And so that is a really good way to break down information. So if, let's say, you're debating different tech tools based on different parameters, ask it to give you a table of the results. And the columns could be cost, website, if they have a nonprofit discount, ratings on external websites like G2. So you can ask it to list action items. You can ask it to do anything in a table. I really love tables. You can ask it to take a transcript. So if you have an AI note taker, any note taker, take that transcript, attach it to a separate conversation, and use it in your storytelling. Pull out emotionally resonant and salient quotes related to our mission. Don't change any of their words, right? That'll help you find the quotes in that big transcript that you might want to stick into your story. And quality control, like I said, human error, checking for consistency, flag anything that needs fact checking. It can help you do fact checking if you prompt correctly. So, with all that being said, let's dive into some practical workflows that I use and you might want to use. To preface, I consider 3 tools really basic to my arsenal. An AI note taker. There are so many out there. There are ones built into your Zoom or Google Meet workspace that comes with Google for Nonprofits. There is the free version of Fathom or the free version of a lot of different ones. There are audio ones only, so they're not like a human recording a video in your conversations. So there's a lot of options out there. It's not just the one or two you've seen, and you can really explore the options and find the one that works for you. Two, a project management tool. Even if no one else on your team is using a project management tool, I think it's really important. I've worked at many places where I would use one alone in the free version. Trello, Asana, Monday. Monday has a free nonprofit plan. So if you plan on using it as a team, that's a good one. Um, and three, my paid AI tool. So for privacy reasons, context windows, being able to prime bots and customize my own spaces, those are all really important. We can dive into priming bots and creating your own spaces later or at the end, but those are the three things I absolutely need to get anything done. Okay, your branded drafting space. One of the first things I do with any client is create a brand space. And I have instructions in that space and files uploaded to that space. The files I upload are the brand guide, emails that we just love that are phenomenal and not too out of date. The copy, right? If you drafted the copy for your website or if you have a copy guide somewhere, upload that. Your latest annual report, anything you've spent a lot of time on that you're happy with that really represents your organization, put in those files. Then in the instructions, I keep it pretty light so I can use this space in a lot of different ways, but I'll show you in a little bit what I might say. So here are a few things I upload, as I said. You can upload if you have audience research, if you've done any of that before. If not, you can use Perplexity in the free version for that. I really like using Perplexity that way. Different tone words, draft a basic doc of the words you use, the words you don't use, the jargon you want to avoid, how you talk about things externally, making sure that it has everything it needs to give you the best results possible so you have less to edit. So here's a short set of instructions you might put into a branded space. You're my brand voice assistant. Ask me what this content is for. I'm going to use this in a lot of ways. Rewrite our drafts in our tone. Use clear, accessible language. Do not invent facts, numbers, quotes. You could ask it if you don't know something, but you need something, put in a placeholder in brackets and caps. If you don't know something, please ask me questions, right? There's a few different ways you can do this. Iterate over time. I always iterate my prompts. So you can use this for donor updates, event communications, program announcements, website content. In your brand space, anytime you open a conversation, it's primed to help you. And then you just put your draft in the chat or attach it to your conversation and ask it for what you need. And you don't even have to tell it all that much. Make sure this donor update matches our brand tone. If you have a team AI account, and Anthropic and ChatGPT both have nonprofit discounts, then you can create spaces that you can share across teams. So for example, if you're in the marketing department and you want other people to send you stuff that is more in line with your brand, so you have less to do, create this space and the bot, and then share it with your team and be like, hey guys, here's this thing that can really help you. This will make sure that everything is in line with how we speak about our work. Workflow two, pillar content to the content cascade. So I'm sure I didn't invent the content. I'm sure other people use the term content cascade, but I am very proud of that alliteration. Pillar content means it's your bulkier piece of content. So one way to build content is that you focus on a meatier thing. So a long form blog post, a report, or you use a podcast or a podcast transcript. Start with something substantial that has more, not less in it. And from that, you're going to use AI in your workflows to spin out a lot of different smaller things from it. So I'm going to show you, let me get to the next slide and not get ahead of myself. So pillar content, you're going to want to think about your target audience and your primary goal. I really like to stick to one. You can maybe have two. but think about what is it in your ideal world? What would this person do? Would they donate? Would they volunteer? Would they sign a petition? What is it that you're trying to accomplish here? Or are you trying to educate? That is also a good goal. Are you trying to educate people? So here's an example prompt. Here's my webinar, podcast report, topic, audience. Here's my goal. Based on this text, I want you to give me the summary. So I want to make sure it understood what this is actually about. Give me social post ideas where you explain to me what image should I create or what reel should I create, right? And you can just do that in Canva and give me some captions. Draft a 200-word short email inviting people to see the full piece. So, for example, let's say you have a podcast. Take the transcript and turn that into a blog post. Make it even shorter in an email and have that email linked to the blog post. Then turn it into the text that goes in a social carousel. You see where I'm going with this. You can also, if your podcast is recorded, take the video, and there are lots of good AI tools to break long form video into a bunch of different reels that you can choose for YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, TikTok. So this is a truncated version of a prompt that I might use, but I hope this gets your gears turning for how a cascade might work. So here are some possible outputs. I've named a lot. There are many. I love doing pull quotes from blogs. It's a really nice static image people like to share, and it promotes interest in your blog. One or more emails, lots of different kinds of social posts, of course, data points for infographics, talking points, press releases, scripts, video scripts, right? You don't need it to generate the video for you, but you might just not know what to say. Okay, so here are some things where you could use it first. Grab a recent webinar, training, a recent impact report at the beginning of next year. Your annual report is gold. Please use the heck out of it. A strong participant story. If you have all the permissions, get as much mileage as you can. Any official appearances by your spokespeople or trusted people like your CEO or your legal expert. Use all of it to the max. It will really help you fill your content calendar. Okay, so some of you mentioned interest in event recaps. So if let's say you had a digital event and you had your AI note taker going, this is super easy. You just create a content cascade. If it was an in-person event, you could try to remember during the event to speak to people. I have a little recorder, and you could ask if you could take short videos, raw videos, unpolished videos that are decent quality. Sometimes do better than the polished stuff. So don't be afraid of asking people for their quick thoughts while you're there. And then the next day, you can turn anything you gather at the event or what people send you from the event. Sometimes with clients, I have a shared WhatsApp group, and everyone just pops into the chat anything that they have permission for the organization to share. I'll usually ask that they don't put in the chat anything they're not sure I can share. And then take all of that and share what happened at the event, share in people's voices what they thought or what motivates them to be there. What were the outcomes? Did you hit goals? Did you raise money? Did you volunteer? Did you teach people things? You can draft your audience follows up. So your event arc has a before, during, and an after. So when people are home and energized the next day, it's quick and easy to follow up on that one thing you really want them to do. And then provide the tone. What was the tone of this event? Is it urgent? Is it communal? Every event has a different function. So here's a sample prompt. I don't think we need to get into this too much at this point, but I just wanted you to have it. Same with social posts. With your recap, you could create, of course, social posts. Year-end appeal improvement. We are in that time of year. You probably have a lot of things flying. You can use AI to help you. I don't know why this slide is numbered. I'm sorry. You can improve clarity and emotional structure. You can test subject lines and preview text variations. I have a chat conversation, a bot primed just for my email subject lines. And I put the draft in a chat, and what it spits out is a bunch of different subject lines based on best practice. I developed that prompt using my prompt tool, but I'm also happy to share my thought for that. Creating or adjusting openings for different donor segments or strengthening your calls to action. So, marketing psychology is really important in your year end appeals, in your emails, in your letters, in your social posts, and consistency. So, you can attach everything you've developed, for example, to your brand space and say, how are these different from each other? How are these diverging from our usual brand tone? And what would you recommend I change in each of these pieces? So when you ask for recommendations, for example, it's not changing anything in what you have, but it's helping you be another set of eyes in streamlining the whole thing. Or you can attach your email and say in the conversation, you are a copywriter who excels in fundraising conversion copy. Look at this draft and tell me what you would change and why. Just saying that might help you get a great additional sentence or two in there. Okay, so you can provide the draft that you already have, the audience segments, and any research you have with your audience, or drafts of conversations you have with your audience. Anytime you talk to any segment of your population, with permission, ask if you could record that call with your AI note taker. I like to put all those conversation transcripts into a separate space that I use to understand my audience better. So that's a more advanced technique if that resonates with you. Share what you have to keep and your constraints. Remember, constraints really help. So here's an example upgrade prompt for that email you have sitting waiting to go out. Why don't you just use it and see what happens? And after refining your core appeal, use after. So in that last stretch of December, of course, we know a lot of giving happens in December, most of it in like the last few days of the year. So what you can do is you can make sure in your email vendor to email, for example, only the people who opened one of the last two emails, right? And send some follow-ups that you draft with the help of AI. Following up is really important, and AI can help you say things in different ways so you're not just sending the same email over and over. Okay, the same example works year round for giving days, campaigns, program specific appeals, rapid response, any kind of campaign you're running. Use AI for cohesion and editing and getting more out of those same drafts so you can remind people without repeating yourself. Okay, last but not least, as you can tell, I think an AI note taker is critical. I love it. If your nonprofit is uneasy about it, you can develop a policy around it internally to help everyone feel more comfortable. I also do recommend that nonprofits buy their own tools and distribute them to teams, because then you can control the privacy, right? Opting out of the model learning, and you can have better control over the data being used and how these tools are used, which helps the security for everyone. But even barring that, using the tools privately is totally fine as long as your organization is cool with it. So you can use AI to capture meetings, video and audio only, even just based on the transcript as it's coming in. I like to use one called Granola that literally uses the audio input to take a transcript and write notes. You can use these AI note takers for so many things. I really find it helps me be more present in my meetings because I know it's going. I do double check that it's working, but I know it's going. You can use it afterwards to help you draft follow-up emails, extract your tasks and send it to your task manager, pull out quotes if you're writing a story, develop better stewardship touch points, understand your audiences better. So you transcribe the meetings. Like I said, it helps you focus. I like to use automation. You can use a simple automation tool or Google Flow to auto back up my transcripts and my notes. So this is a little bit more of an advanced technique, but there are a lot of simple ways to do this. And it also helps me build repositories, helps me keep track of the notes. So if I'm searching for something, it really helps me use the notes in a lot more ways. And capture authentic language. One of the keys in marketing is mirroring the way other people talk about you. So inside any company or organization, we have something called the curse of knowledge, where we know too much. And it's really important to focus on the way people speak about what you do and what resonates for them. For example, your year end appeal, you're not going to say it's the end of the fiscal year or help us reach our goal unless it's like a crowdfunding campaign. You're going to say, you're going to notice that in your audience conversations, your donors told you that they feel so good knowing that they helped put food on the table in their own community. And you're going to say, help us put food on more tables in our community, right? So pulling out those gems and using them, AI note takers will help you do this 1,000 times better. So here's a draft prompt, but we've done so many of them that I'm going to go ahead. And here are some closing thoughts before I open up for questions. Best practices. Test your prompts in new chats. So while I love context windows and staying in long conversations sometimes you'll find things get muddy and the conversation gets confused. Sometimes it helps to start a fresh conversation in the same space so that you reset that, you wipe the slate clean, and you see if you get a better result. Document successful prompts. You can do this in a Google Doc with tabs, in Notion. Keep it on hand. If you notice this prompt is going really well, save it somewhere for yourself. And then I update them regularly or replace them when I find a better one. Maintain an iteration mindset. So first drafts are starting points. These are not final products. Your productivity with AI will get so much better if you see it as part of your process. I use it to refine, to improve, to draft, never copy paste. Focus on your process. Use your judgment, and you are the expert, you are the filter, you are the manager. Choose the right tool for your tasks. So different modes, different temperatures, transformation, research tasks. ChatGPT is a good all-in-one tool, but some tools are better at other things. For example, Google has a lesser known tool called Notebook LM, free to use, and the upgraded version is available in your Google Workspace that comes with Google for nonprofits. You can upload your data. So I like to upload audience conversations to a notebook and Notebook LM, and the chat interacts only with the data you provide. So there is no hallucination. So this is really good for uploading different transcripts or uploading studies, uploading data. So if you take audience surveys, instead of putting that in a ChatGPT chat, put it in Notebook LM and then start chatting with that chat to better understand your data. Or Perplexity. Perplexity is really good for research. There are others as well, but that's what it was built for. That's its primary focus. And you get like 3 deep research searches a day in their free mode. Give examples, give examples, give examples, give context, give examples. More is sometimes better. Okay, so that was a lot. And I am going to pause here because I assume there are questions.
So there are a couple questions in the Q&A, so I
Okay,
will ask those questions, but feel free, audience, to drop in more questions while we answer these. So the
absolutely.
first one is, how do you contend with sharing sensitive information or stories of participants when developing content with AI?
That is a great question. So the beginning starts with understanding what your participants are comfortable with. I often use, if you're using a release tool, you can ask for different levels of permission. So it's not just yes, no, it's yes with my name or yes with my first name, yes without my name or identifying information, or no, right? So I like to ask for degrees. And then when I use AI to help me, either, first of all, I use a paid version and I turn off the learning. I use a private chat. So if there's a shared organization chat, I use a private one. And to reduce risk, I do a quick like control F and search in the transcript to just delete identifying details if I know that that's what that person wants. And you could even tell the chat, this is going to be an anonymous story. So understanding what they want and then mitigating your risk as you do it, even before you get to drafting and publication, I find helps a lot. And then whatever you're storing, so if you have a story bank or an asset bank, make sure nothing is in there that anyone can share. So whatever your permission level is, just make sure that whatever is available for reuse or reference doesn't carry any risk with it. So those are two things I like to do to make sure that everyone is comfortable. There are also some general rules, like if your event is publicly available, like you have a block party, technically you can take pictures and videos and share it, technically. It's always nice to ask, but you should just know, I'm pretty sure. Um, and when you're at an event, just ask people, right? Like just say, hey, I want to take a video or I want to ask you a few questions and I'm hoping to use this in our email. Are you comfortable with that? And sometimes I'll even say no is totally fine. Like if I see someone hesitate, I'll be like, no is totally fine, right? So those are some strategies I use to make sure I'm getting the right consent and I understand what people are comfortable with.
Thank you. Next question is, what do you mean by primed bot for certain tasks?
That is an awesome question. Okay. Um, if you're okay with it, because I mentioned a few times, I can actually exit my screen and use ChatGPT. Okay, so I'm gonna escape here and I'm going to open my own paid version of ChatGPT. So here on this left-hand side, you can see new chat, search chats, library. Some of these are only available in a paid version. Um,
Peggy, is it at all possible to make it bigger?
oh, sure. Let me try. Is that better? Is that better? Did I make it bigger? Here. Better?
There you go. Perfect.
Okay,
Yes.
great. So here you have projects and GPTs. Okay. So in GP, let's start with projects. In projects, you can build a new project. So I built this one, assuming I would show this here. And there are a number of things you can do. You can click to add files, and here is where you add all those files we spoke about. And here on the upper right, you click these three buttons and you click add instructions. So these were the two pieces I mentioned, instructions and files. Then you want to name your space. So you name your space, you give it an emoji, and then you have it in those spaces to refer to over and over and over. And in a team version, you should be able to use it elsewhere. So you can default memory or project only. So if you want to keep things in their own bubble, or if you want to enable it to use information from elsewhere. The other thing you can do that most people, I think, don't quite realize is in this universe here are custom GPTs, right? So you can explore custom GPTs other people have made. Here's prompt craft that I'm going to share with you. And on the upper right, you have access to all the GPTs you've built before, and you can create one. So when you create one, it looks like this, and you can use a native chat to help you build and configure. So for example, I work at a for food security in my hometown. Um, this is not going to be so great at the moment. Help me build a and text consistent in chats. So let's see what happens. I like to use the latest model because I may as well in the paid version. And usually for longer requests, it'll do a little thinking. So this chat will help you go back and forth and then help you configure it. I want to show you though what an end result looks like. So in my GPTs, um, for example, I work in ad grants, so I have one for ad copywriting. Um, and here in my GPT, you can see how I built it. So I used this chat to help me, but I actually used a prompt bot to help me initially build the prompt back here. So using this chat, it helped me fill in the name, the description, the instructions, which, as I told you, in my proper prompts are significantly longer. This tells it exactly what I want in every conversation. And then you can prime your conversation starters and you can upload files. So this has some overlap with the project spaces, but you can use them in different ways. And you can choose a model if you prefer, if you want it to use these capabilities, and then you update or share. So you can choose how private it is. It could be only you, anyone with the link available in the ChatGPT store, or as a team, I assume you could share it across your team. So I think that probably does that answer that question? Those are the two primary things we spoke about, and most people here are using ChatGPT. So I think
Wow,
that's
I think that's amazing. And I I don't know if anyone on here is that quite advanced yet, but certainly art of the possible, folks.
so it
Fascinating.
honestly the configure chat is really helpful. I wanted to show you how it works, but I would need like a really tangible example. But I'm happy to share my prompt bot and it will help you start the conversation at a better place.
Perfect. Thank you. Will there be additional AI webinars? This webinar was awesome and somewhat overwhelming for me as a novice. Um,
Sorry.
so no, we are so thankful for you being here. Again, art of the possible. You're showing us so many new things. So a survey will be sent out to everyone here. If you are interested in learning more about AI in marketing, if you want it specifically in different contexts or whatnot, fill out the survey, let us know what you're looking for, and we'll do our best. And we'll invite Becky back over the spring or maybe the summer to focus more on those. Next question. What are your thoughts and cautionary advice about how nonprofits use AI for grant writing?
Hmm, that is a great question. And I actually think grant writing is a fantastic use case, but you have to do the legwork. One of the risks I see in general and with grant writing is that people start to think they can outsource their thinking to AI. And that is something I don't want you to do. So, what you need to do is research the grantor, right? Who do they fund? What are they interested in? You can use AI to help you research, but have that information. And then also, what are they looking for? So, of course, the application requests or requirements. And you combine those two things and what you're submitting the grant request for and the data you have on that. So, that's three things. And you need to use all of that together with AI. So once you have all those pieces, which you would need to have if you were doing this entirely yourself, anyhow, you can build a space just for that application or a custom GPT. I would probably do a project space, upload it all in there. And then when you start a chat, say, reference the documentation. The documentation has information about this grantor, information about what we want to grant for, information on what's required. I want you to build a first draft with high fidelity to the information you have. If you have follow up questions or gaps in the information, please put it in brackets, in bold, in caps. That's what I like to ask for so that when I scan, I can see the gaps. And that helps AI not hallucinate because you wanted to do that. Then let's say I'm happy with the response. AI can do something called tool calling, and it has different outputs it can give you beyond some of the ones I mentioned. So I like to say, create a document or create text I can copy and paste into Docs. Sometimes when it says it creates a document, it gives you a dummy link. It's kind of weird that way. So just ask it to create a document that or text you could copy paste, and then you move that into your document, and then you start working on it. Then when you're happy with your draft or your iteration of the draft it gave you, go back to that space in a new chat. That's when a new chat is helpful. And say, based on everything you know, what's missing here? How can I improve it? Don't rewrite it. I want you to give me recommendations and tell me what it's for, right? Use those recommendations to edit. Then send it to someone else on your team. So that's what I would do with a grant application.
Great. Any other questions? Just wanted to share, Figgy, we've gotten a lot of thank yous in the chat, that this has been so
Yeah.
helpful.
Yay.
Thanks for the grant tips.
Awesome. I'm so glad. Um, if you have Google for Nonprofits, the upgraded AI options are there. Like they've incorporated more that's available to you for free. Please take advantage of it in your workspace. Um, Gemini is really underused and it can do a lot more than you think. Anthropic's new AI discount that just came out like 2 weeks ago is really high. It's like 75%. So if you have a 501(c)(3), it could be like $7 per person per month, like really, really affordable. So these tools are trying to reach the market.
Great. Perfect. Looks like we have another question. Could there be a training? Oh, that'll be for me. Could there be a training on Copilot and AI integrations?
Hmm.
So Copilot, okay. We'll look into that. Thank you. This webinar is informative. Excited to check out Gemini. Excited where we go with AI. Fantastic. So thank you, everyone. I did drop in the survey in the chat. It will also pop up in your browser when you close out, when we close out of this webinar. Please do take a moment, complete it. Again, we will be taking a look at kind of the open space where you want to for what you want for future webinars. So please drop those in.
Yeah, for Copilot, I'm seeing a few questions about Copilot. I
Mhm.
don't personally know so much, but I know
Yep.
that Microsoft program for AI is called Microsoft Elevate, and I think they have some free options, and I bet they have videos as well as hands-on support.
Mhm.
So Elevate, I know has some discounts, and I would dive into the resources they provide, and then a lot of these strategies are tool agnostic.
What would you use for tools about super basic flyers?
Super basic flyers. Okay. I usually make them in Canva, start with the template. This presentation was built in a tool called gamma.app. Um, the free version is pretty generous, but they keep their branding on it. Um, and it's pretty cool in the way it works. Those are two. Canva has its own AI. I don't love it, but it might be a place to start if you're super specific. You're welcome. I'm so glad it was helpful.
Okay, I think we've answered all the questions. Any
Okay.
final words, Faggy?
I know this might feel overwhelming. I gave you a lot of information. Um, I wanted to be helpful wherever you were in your journey, but really, I really hope you just took one thing that can start with one thing that makes your life easier. One workflow, one tool, one task. Think about the things. When I talk to clients, I usually say, think about the things that are annoying and repetitive and start there. That's usually where you're going to feel a quick win. So that's what I'd leave off with.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Really appreciate your time and sharing your expertise. We are excited to get this slide deck from you. Some amazing prompts in there. And hopefully we'll see you again in the new year.
Awesome. I hope to see you
Everyone,
again.
thank you. Everyone, thank you for joining us and have a great rest of your week. Take care. Bye.